It's never hard to find a few minutes of silence on your track.
Yeah, especially on this, talking about Tolkien, where there will be probably entire hours of me just listening to you.
Oh, how complicated could it be? Because we're talking about Chapter 2 of The Hobbit, Roast Mutton.
Yeah, as you recall from last time, Bilbo, he's going to travel with a bunch of dwarves to the Lonely Mountain to beat up a dragon and get the treasure of the dwarves back. But Bilbo wakes up, they're all gone, and he's like, I dodged a bullet there. Only to then find Ben. They left behind a letter, and they're all going to meet up at... It's not the Prancing Pony at this point, right?
No, it's not the
later.
Prancing Pony.
But
they're all going to meet up... Oh, where was it? I should know that.
Yeah, you should. I'm
the Green Dragon Inn.
Yeah. And Bilbo, my God, I did not think a man who spent most of his time just lounging around smoking pipe weed and eating multiple breakfasts would be such an athlete, but he runs a few miles in less than 10 minutes.
Bro, what are you talking about? That used to be like how every Olympic athlete trained. You smoke the cigarettes to do like a deep breathing exercise. You eat a lot of breakfast. You carbo load. You got to make sure you have the carbs required for the journey.
We've lost our ways, and things used to be so much better.
I think Olympic athletes these days are just too skinny.
Yeah, they got to bulk up.
They got to bulk up. They get that Hobbit. They got to get that Hobbit swag.
That Hobbit figure, Hobbit bod.
Hashtag goals, as the kids used to say. But yeah, Gandalf rushes Bilbo out the door. He meets up at the very nick of time at the Green Dragon Inn.
And they got Bilbo a little pony.
They all get ponies. Ponies for everyone.
Yeah.
Which is funny because they're small horses.
Yeah, but they're also small people, Ben.
Yeah, they're small people. This is not the episode where we get deep into like the lore of dwarves. But that'll come. We're going to try to figure out exactly how much dwarf weighs and whether or not it would crush a pony.
Well, let's open up the 5e manual.
Well, in D&D, they're massive. Like dwarves, I mean, they're stout, but they're like bulky.
Yeah, they would definitely crush a pony to death.
But yeah, so this is the chapter that begins the journey properly. This is Bilbo's first experience on the road, his first experience camping outdoors. And it's fun at first, like most camping trips.
Yeah. And then you're like, and now I'm calling it a day, and you get in your car and you drive home. But Bilbo does not do that.
No, he doesn't get in his pony and drive home. They got to keep riding.
So there are evil-looking castles on the road. Let's start there. What? Where are they still in the Shire?
They are still in the Shire-ish, I believe. They're on the outskirts.
Why are there evil-looking castles around these fair parts?
I would guess because they're abandoned. Evil-looking meaning they're just fallen into ruin.
Did there used to be more people out this way or in the Shire proper?
I think so, yeah. So you were saying, like, one of the things they mentioned is that there was no...
They seldom have heard of they have seldom heard of the king round here. And my note was, who?
Yeah, so this is the wilds between towns. So Middle-earth is like a classic setup. There's not a lot of densely populated areas in Middle-earth, so between towns, there's a lot of wildland. And out here, they haven't even heard of the king, which means they are lawless. Now, you're thinking, what king? Like, yeah, what king rules these lands? And, well, Tolkien thought of that. Because the king to which they are referring to is the ancient High King of Fornost, or Norbury. Or Norbury, as they call it, away north of the Shire. But there has been no king there for 1,000 years.
Oh, wow.
The ruins of that kingdom have been covered, but
wow,
that king is remembered fondly by the hobbits.
So fondly that they never checked on him ever after he
it
stopped
was a long time ago.
down.
Nobody really knows what happened, but they never checked on him. Like he's just in his castle. Like he fell in the shower.
It's like those people who they didn't know their neighbor was dead, but because the rent was on auto pay, that's this king. But for 1,000 years.
But this is the king that originally gifted the hobbits the Shire. He apportioned it for their use. And so they remember him fondly. Because the hobbits are awesome, dude.
What did
it's
he get
not a
in return?
retcon. It's not a retcon. Don't worry about it.
Okay. All
He
right.
definitely didn't write The Hobbit first. He definitely wasn't just referring to the king because he was talking to his child at bedtime. This is all planned years in advance in the trenches of the Somme, you know?
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry about it.
I'm glad we figured that one out.
Look, there's going to be a lot of things in The Hobbit. I don't know if this is common knowledge, but Tolkien was dreaming up Middle-earth for a long time. Ever since he was a child almost. And a lot of the things in the Legendarium are meticulously planned and thought through. The Hobbit is not one of them. The Hobbit is a story he wrote for his children, and he borrowed heavily from the ideas he already had in his head. But not everything written in The Hobbit 100% was planned to be included in the Legendarium. The retconning of The Hobbit into Tolkien's proper lore happens largely as a quirk of the publishing industry. They wanted a sequel to the popular book.
Okay. So where is Bree then? I know we're not going to Bree. That's in the Lord of the Rings, but like, why wouldn't they have had to go through Bree?
Oh boy, you're gonna make me take out my map.
I'm trying to look at a map right now, but I can't zoom in. But don't they roughly go the same direction for a bit until they hit Rivendell?
My favorite one, actually, there's lotrproject.com. This has an interactive map that has the timelines of each journey mentioned in the books.
Oh my god. I'm going.
Yeah. Yeah, they would have had to wander through Bree.
So they would have had to go through Bree, according to this, but no one cares.
Yeah, maybe they... Well, okay, maybe
it's just not important. So this part of the map here, labeled Hobbiton, and this part of the map here, labeled Trollshaws, that's where they go in this chapter, and everything in between, which includes Bree and Weathertop, we're just like, who cares? Nothing's going to happen anyway. So we just move on.
I think Weathertop may well be one of those rundown castles.
Oh, there you go. It's not a retcon, Ben. This was planned out meticulously. He knew, I'm going to need a rundown castle for the next book that I'm definitely getting.
He definitely had an idea of what Middle-earth looked like geographically by this point.
Did he know Mordor?
I don't know if he had planned for Mordor yet. We'll talk about this more if we ever get into Silmarillion stuff, the reshaping of Middle-earth. But after the battle that kicked Morgoth out, things got a little differently shaped. But yeah, so let's talk about the trolls.
Yeah, let's talk about the trolls. So, well, first of all, it's important to note Gandalf, he bailed. He's gone. No idea where he went. He said that he was going to go for some vanilla Coke and cigarettes at the gas station, just like Thrain, just like all of Thorin's father figures. He's gone. Don't have any idea where he went, so it's just the dwarves and Bilbo. And it looks like there's some lights over there. up yonder hill in that forest. Bilbo, you're a thief. That's the role you picked. Burglar, I guess, but whatever. And why don't you go up there, scout out a little bit, and we're gonna give us a signal if it's safe to approach. If not, run away. It's also, I guess they also lost a bunch of their supplies. It washed away in the river because a pony ran away. So there you go. That's the setup, Ben. Bilbo going up. He hears and sees 3 large figures. Trolls, Ben. Name.
Do you remember the names?
William, Bert, and Tom. The nicest troll names ever. Until you realize that those translate into just horrible atrocities in troll language. I can't repeat them on here or we would get canceled.
I don't think that's true. I think he just picked names he thought like street toughs would have, because that's how the trolls are characterized. They're just like a comical band of ne'er-do-wells.
Yeah, this was before trolls got hardcore gangsta in the sequels.
I thought you were going to say on 4chan.
That too. I did have a note here, Ben. Do some trolls have 2 heads?
According to this, they do.
There is one thing, Ben. I know you don't want to add a lot of memes and stuff, but the trolls want tasty, tasty man flesh.
What is it? What do you smell? Man flesh.
God, gosh darn it.
They've picked up our trail. Gosh.
Man flesh. I'm so happy we got to it so quickly.
Okay, so Bilbo's like, all right, those are trolls. That's bad news. But I'd be a really shitty burglar if I left here empty-handed. I'm gonna try to reach inside his sack and see if I can grab something. I didn't write down what it was, Ben, but it talks, right?
It was his wallet.
His
wallet talks. Bilbo literally tried to snatch this guy's wallet. I love that. I forgot that until I reread it. And I was like, oh my God. Bilbo literally, he just goes for it. He's like, oh, well, I'm supposed to be a thief. A thief's got to start thieving somewhere. Yoink. Oh God, he's picking me up now. Yeah, the guy's wallet squeals on him. He had a magic wallet.
Yeah, I don't know what he would be spending money on, but,
How have I never incorporated this into a D&D campaign?
I don't know.
Now you have How have I never given somebody a magic wallet that screams when stolen? That's awesome. Yeah, they pick Bilbo up. They don't know what he is.
Yeah, because he's not a dwarf. And he's like, yeah, don't worry, guys. I taste like shit. You don't want to eat me, and there's no one else out there. Of course, I think is it Balin or Dwalin that comes in first? One of the dwarves is like, yo, Bilbo, where are you at? Oh, shit. And they throw a sack over his head.
Most people make dwarves sound Scottish, but I like this new approach you've taken. Yo, Bilbo, where are you at, dog? As all the dwarves say.
And then
you're not
dwarves...
playing into stereotypes. You're above that.
Yeah, I'm above that. I am my own person, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
So the dwarves are like, all right, I don't know where Balin, got it? Yeah, I don't know where Balin went, so I'm going to go and look for him and Bilbo. And they just keep doing that, like one at a time. They just slowly walk into this circle, and the trolls just yoink, grab them, until Thorin. Thorin, he's not an idiot, okay? His father raised him right before he bailed on him forever. And Thorin, he knows it's a trap. And he starts fighting them. And I think he gets someone right in the goddamn eye. But, the damn numbers game, Ben.
The damn numbers
game. Thorin can only fight them for so long before it just catches up to him and all 3 of them get him.
Well, Thorin actually, he doesn't just get it in the eye. He grabs a burning branch
that's
from the
right.
fire, shoves it in their eye.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I wasn't entirely sure. I should have written that one down.
Which was
So-
pretty metal for a children's bedtime story.
Yeah, that's the best part
Tolkien's
right
not
there.
holding back.
They're like, oh my god, he got him right in the eye? Hell yeah. So then they start arguing, how do we want to cook all these delicious, delicious dwarves? We could boil them, we could smoke them, we could chop them up into little pieces, we could decide to just roast them, you know? Like, we've got options here. And they start fighting and arguing, and finally they decide on one method of cooking, but then someone, the trolls think it's one of their own. They're like, nah, actually we should do this instead. And they're like, you don't start that fight up again. They just keep arguing. And every time they come to a consensus, one of them, supposedly, allegedly, starts arguing again until finally the sun comes up. And if a troll, like everyone knows this, Ben, obviously, right? If a troll doesn't get back underground by the time the sun comes up, they return to the stuff of the mountain, which I guess they're made out of? Is that troll lore?
Okay, so troll lore. I thought this would be a great time to talk about some of Tolkien's inspirations in the source, the Norse myths and language. The word troll is mentioned constantly, but it does not really refer to a specific species of thing. A troll is just a generally bad supernatural thing. And honestly, kind of the same thing could be said about elf. So a troll is just...
Yeah, but elves are hotter, so therefore they're good.
Elves are more benevolent. Elves hang out with the gods. Trolls, not so much. And I actually, I watched an interesting talk. There's a guy, you could look him up, Armin Jakobsen of the University of Iceland, has a couple of interesting talks on YouTube about this. And there's also a book that I didn't mention in the intro episode, which is called Witchcraft and Magic in the Nordic Middle Ages by Stephen Mitchell of the University of Pennsylvania Press, where he even talks about how the word trollkonu could refer to a human witch.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's just negative.
That's not what I was expecting.
Supernatural is trollishness. But then the second part of your question, do trolls turn to stone in the sunlight? Couldn't find anything about that specifically, but it did remind me of a poem from the Poetic Edda, Alvesmal, which I know Tolkien had read. And the plot of this poem is that it is not a troll, but a dwarf. And like I said, it's kind of up for grabs what dwarves even are in Norse mythology, but this dwarf comes to Thor and demands his daughter's hand in marriage.
Oh, that sounds like a dumb idea to do to Thor.
Thor, I think this dwarf is owed this somehow. It's not really clear in the poem, but for whatever reason, Thor just doesn't beat him to death on the doorstep.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's the common Thor response is violence.
Thor decides he's going to use his brain noodle.
Oh.
And in a story that you may find somewhat familiar, Thor tells the dwarf that he will allow the dwarf to marry his daughter if the dwarf proves himself to be smart enough. And the dwarf can prove himself to be smart enough by answering an exhaustive series of questions, at the end of which Thor confesses that though the dwarf has answered everything correctly, sorry bro, sun's up, and he turns to stone.
Wow. Okay. So that's where Tolkien got it.
Did you happen to notice that, let me read a little passage for you here. This is Bilbo. Please don't cook me, kind sirs. I am a good cook myself, and cook better than I cook, if you see what I mean. I'll cook beautifully for you, a perfectly beautiful breakfast for you, if only you won't have me for supper. To which the troll responds, Ah, poor little blighter, said William. He had already had as much supper as he could hold. Also, he had had lots of beer. Poor little blighter, let him go. That troll seems to be sympathetic towards Bilbo.
Or just really drunk. Yeah.
Well, would you believe that in the pre-internet days, someone wrote to Tolkien about this?
Yes, I can believe it because you showed it to me. Otherwise, I would not believe it.
This is in the letters of J.R.R. Tolkien. Somebody complained to him that in his world, he says that the evil things are evil. They're not really capable of being good. Trolls are evil. They're, in the Tolkien Legendarium, descended from either stone creatures or beasts of some kind that were...
The mountain itself, Ben.
Morgoth. Did we talk about who Morgoth is even?
No, I don't think we did. You name-dropped him very briefly.
Oh, boy. I don't think this is the episode where we get into Morgoth. But let's just say a dark force made the trolls in the mockery of Ents.
Oh my god.
And this is according to Treebeard.
Oh, okay.
And of course, like everything the Dark Lord meddles with, they're also like bigger, stronger, and tearing your head off.
Yeah, he shot him full of the green goblin juice.
Tolkien wrote in response to this man who was critical of him that he wondered if perhaps the guy were not taking his story too seriously, and, quote, I might not, if The Hobbit had been more carefully written, and my world so much thought about 20 years ago, have used the expression poor little blighter, just as I should not have called the troll William.
Yeah.
And that is Tolkien admitted that, I wasn't thinking that hard about it. I didn't know there was going to be a whole Lord of the Rings.
Well, he can just blame it on Bilbo, right? Like, this is Bilbo's book. He wrote it, you know.
This is Bilbo's
he was making up names for these trolls.
That's right.
It's all coming together.
Trolls were dull, lumpish, and their raw source material was as inarticulate as an animal, but that dark force twisted them and molded them into a machine of war. But yeah, unfortunately, they couldn't quite crack the stone sunlight prop. Trolls are usually better at gauging how much time has passed than that. Also, they're supposed to kind of live they're supposed to kind of live underground. They're supposed to be like...
Well, they did mention that these guys came down from the mountain. The Misty Mountains aren't that far away. And they're like, I haven't heard of the king in this here parts in some time. I bet I could eat some people on the road. So yeah, turns out another inspiration that Tolkien took, Jeff Dunham.
Jeff
Gandalf...
Dunham, fuck
you. I'm just kidding, because Gandalf could actually throw his voice. And that's what was happening. Gandalf was throwing his voice to make it sound like the trolls were arguing with each other, and they just kept arguing until the sun came up. So, that's them out of the way. And Gandalf gets Bilbo down, and they all get the rest of the dwarves out, and then they find the nearby troll cave. They get some supplies and some fancy swords, and Bilbo gets a knife.
Bilbo gets... They find several swords of elvish make.
Yeah,
and
the good shit.
Gandalf takes a sword, Thorin takes a sword, and Bilbo takes a dagger, but for a hobbit, that is a serviceable short sword. And in addition to that, they find, checks notes, bacon? They find a bunch of food and a barrel full of ale. This is a proper RPG treasure chest here.
Yeah.
This is where it all starts.
You got your loot, and presumably everyone leveled. So onward and outward. Gandalf reveals that he left to go tell the elves of the arrival of the party in, I assume, Rivendell, because that's where they're going next. And then
He says Rivendell.
okay, and then he's like, and then I realized you guys weren't behind me, and you were taking too long, so I went looking and saw all this light up here and decided to come take a look-see. Now we're going on to Rivendell. Again, Thorin in this version is not a moody douche, so...
Well, this is supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
And the trolls are, like, legit a joke. They talk like drunken idiots at a bar. They get turned to stone pretty bloodlessly, except for that one Thorin stabbed in the eye. So Thorin still has his moment. He's still demonstrated as being the toughest dwarf. But I think there's one other thing it really serves to establish in this chapter is like, you know, if you guys are struggling this hard with the trolls, the dragon. What's the end game here?
The end game is Gandalf will help us, right, Gandalf? Right? You're gonna help us? You'll help us get rid of that dragon?
I got a lot of Gandalf stuff to do, guys. I don't know if I'll be able to go the whole way. So, I think that's a good little chapter. I will mention one difference from the movie that I remember is in the movie, it is Bilbo that distracts them, and Gandalf shows up at the end to blow a boulder apart, revealing the sun.
Okay. I do remember that Bilbo was the one in the movie, but I did not remember that boulder thing.
Yeah. I guess in fairness to a movie I loathe, I don't mind Bilbo being the one to distract them, but I think in the book, we're not ready for Bilbo to be cool yet. He still needs to...
Yeah, he couldn't even steal a wallet without the wallet screaming to everyone in a 5-mile radius.
Well, I like that he went for the wallet, so we know Bilbo's not a coward. Like, we know he's trying to do his part. But also, he's still incompetent. He hasn't had his hero's journey yet. So, I think it's a good chapter.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on roast mutton?
No, I think those are my final thoughts.
Okay.
They never did get that mutton.
I assume that maybe they got some over the open fire that the trolls were cooking.
Left on all night.
Yeah. I didn't say it was good mutton, you know. It's a little well done for my liking, but yeah, you take what you can get when your stupid pony ran away and got all your supplies washed away in a river.
You're being real hard on these ponies. I hope nothing bad happens to them.
Yeah. I kind of do, though.
I got a lot of Gandalf stuff to do, guys.